Phil. On behalf of Jane and my kids and my grandchildren, thank you all very, very much. And let me echo Phil's point about Mango Jam. This is one of the great bands in the state of Vermont, and we are so grateful. I'm not going to give you a long speech, but I think you all know that these are very somber times for our country. And it is easy to forget about what goes on in Washington when you look out there. And we appreciate how beautiful our own state is. But we are in very, very difficult times. Let me just summarize some of what my thoughts are and where we are at. The truth of the matter is that we remain in the most difficult economic stage since the Great Depression. It is not talked about very often, but real unemployment in this country is close to 14%.
Yeah.
It is not talked about very often, but real wages are going down for tens of millions of working people. It's not talked about very much, but there is an assault against trade unionism in our country and on the unions who have defended all of us for so many years. And it is not talked about very much that in the midst of the decline of the middle class and in the midst of almost record high poverty levels, the people on top 1%, multinational corporations are doing phenomenally well. And there is something wrong with the picture when the middle class declines and the people on top are making record-breaking profits. That has got to change. And there is something very wrong when this great country continues to be the only nation in the industrialized world that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right of citizenship.
Yes.
Now there is, as all of you are more than aware, and I'm going to be on a plane early tomorrow morning to begin dealing with this, all of you are very aware that there is a lot of discussion about war in Syria. So let me tell you my own views. I believe that the time is long overdue that we went to war against unemployment, low wages, and the needs of the middle class. That's the kind of war that we should be waging. All right? I am old enough, as some of you are, to remember the war in Vietnam. And I remember like it was yesterday, Henry Kissinger. You all remember old Henry? He was old when he was young. And this guy was standing there in front of his maps and his charts, telling us that if Vietnam fell, all of the horrible things that would happen. Well, you know what happened in Vietnam? 15 years after that war, American companies who have shut down 50,000 factories in the United States started investing in Vietnam, paying people 25 or 50 cents an hour. That's what happened. And I was in the Congress when there was the discussion and the vote on Afghanistan. And we were told no problem in Afghanistan. They don't even have an army. That's going to be a short war. Well, 11 years later, we are still there in the longest war in the history of the United States. And everybody remembers on another boat, not quite this one, George W. Bush talking about mission accomplished aboard an aircraft carrier. 4,600 lives later, and as chairman of the Veterans Committee, I can tell you we are dealing with tens of thousands of young men and women who are back here in this country with traumatic brain injury, with post-traumatic stress disorder, and at a cost of trillions of dollars. So all of us are in agreement that this fella, Assad in Syria, is a thug. He really is. Chemical weapons are absolutely disgraceful and have got to be outlawed. But I think that before the United States, all on its own, gets us involved in a third war in the Middle East, we've got other war options in front of us. This is a difficult problem, and it's one that the entire international community is going to have to deal with. We just cannot do it alone and get bogged down into another war. And I feel very strongly about that. Last point that I want to make, we talk about what's going on in America, and my greatest fear, and it needs to be thought about and discussed, is that in many ways our country is moving toward an oligarchic form of society. You all know what that means? Something we talked about and learned about when we were kids in school, and I think we never thought it would apply to the United States of America. What oligarchy is about is when a handful of families control the economic and political life of this country. And I have to bring you the bad news that is exactly what is going on right now. You have Wall Street, the 6 largest financial institutions have assets equivalent to 2/3 of the GDP of the United States of America. They control so much. And when people talk about Congress regulating Wall Street, I want all of you to know that it is very much the other way around. Right. It is Wall Street which regulates Congress. And on top of all of the economic power that these multinational corporations have, as a result of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision, these very same people, these billionaires and large corporations, can now put hundreds of millions of dollars into the political process. That is not what American democracy is supposed to be about. That is not what people fought and died to defend.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
So we have got a lot of work in front of us. And I know that many people get discouraged, they get tired, they kind of want to throw up their hands. But I want to kind of remind you of the point that Martin Luther King Jr. very often made, and he talked about the arc of history, the arc of history. And what that means